Chief Knight. We are live for those that care about their appearances on television.
Thank you.
Hey, Katie. Nikki, nice new hair.
Thanks.
It's been a while since I've seen you, so
Yeah.
I don't know when it happened.
Right? We opened.
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I actually talked to her. All right, thank you.
Morning, Brian.
Hello, Brian.
Morning. How are you?
Good, yourself?
I can't find Katie. You're lost. Your name is lost.
Can I stay behind you? How are you?
How are you?
I'm
Just
very well, thank you.
weird and
They
usually.
may have put the student one somewhere.
Oh, they may have. 6 o'clock comes really early. I'm just saying.
Oh, you're good.
Jody.
Jody's online this morning. Thought you'd be here, Jody.
What?
We thought you'd be here.
Yeah, I got home really late last night. How come I can't find it on YouTube?
I put it-
refresh the page.
Yeah,
It's there.
Is that?
I need to start it earlier.
I need to have another one.
Do we have any more of these?
Yeah, whole packet. They're all in. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and I looked up.
This is extra
Without
stuff.
my phone this morning.
What?
Like, ah.
Hello, Barney.
How are you?
Who are you?
I am well.
Okay.
Oh, it's on this.
I looked on
It's not there.
Jody, I have just emailed you the live streaming link. So if you check your email, maybe clicking on that link will work.
It's been fun, the traffic's been.
Is this the last month we're allowed to do this that we know of?
Well, they extended it to July 31st, but they keep on extending it every month. So I don't know what they're going to do in July 20th if they're going to extend it again. So
I hear Jody's on the phone.
yes, Jody.
Is Josh coming?
No, he's not coming.
Are
And
you
Tim,
online?
no,
Okay.
and Tim is probably not coming online either.
Okay.
So it's just, Matt.
Yeah.
And when I talked to him, he said he was coming, but I'm not sure.
I have to.
Hey, Kathy.
I think.
Oh,
Good job.
maybe I'm not on the jury, so
Well,
find out.
Now they're beautiful.
No, you're good. Thank you.
And you go and start. You follow
Yeah.
her at all?
Yeah, well, after 4 months of growing up, it was.
Yes.
So
Jody's
Yeah.
not-
Yeah.
a lot of work. Then I thought about you had to be a little longer.
Yeah, they've done a lot of.
Yeah, it was great too. Sometimes those things are long. So Jody find us yet?
We'll have 2 viewers on YouTube.
Good deal.
So
Okay.
no,
Yes.
It's 6 o'clock, really early.
Morning, Mike. How are you? Good.
We are at the bewitching hour of 7 a.m. on this gorgeous July morning. Thank you all for joining us. Had we done this in January, we'd be coming in the dark and leaving in the dark. So at least this day is full of sunshine.
I can grab one. Right.
Okay, let's begin. What do you know who? You take roll.
Take roll.
Electronic, okay?
Kathy Breitner,
Here.
Matt Bugera, Tim Knapp, Josh Baker, Jody Eubank,
Jody? She's here.
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 Thank you.
There it is.
Nikki Law.
Here.
Deanna Mulder.
Here.
Brian Bedini.
Here.
Amy Gillard. Here. Katie Vila.
Okay. That gets us together.
We do.
Next on our agenda, the minutes of our June 4th meeting, which was attached to your packet. Do we have any comments or corrections on those minutes?
I move to accept.
Okay, you may have a second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I,
It has passed. Let's next move down our list this morning for public comment. We have 3 people in the audience. Anything you want to say that's not already on our agenda or that we should know of? No? Okay. We will include you later on at the end if you do, as well as you know. You're welcome to talk to us. And our next item, number 5, are COVID-19 updates and issues.
So a couple updates. We have a new restaurant opening up in town called Sprout. It is opening in Collins location tomorrow, and it will be here. I think it is the owner of Willow, same Dan, is opening it up, and it's been a quick rush job and about a week of getting it together. So
Do you know what kind of food?
it sounds like it's sandwiches, salads. I mean, more casual,
Okay.
kind of cafe. I'm assuming very green with the name Sprout.
I hope so.
Street music begins today, this evening, and I know, so we're really excited. It's one of the few events still happening.
It is, and in fact, yesterday, Boyne City pulled their Stroll the Streets, which was set for debut end of July. So between this event, music, and Concerts in the Park by Crooked Tree Arts Center, this is it for music for the summer. I did not do a press release for this week's because with the combination of the 4th and the blessing tonight, I thought we'd do well for crowd. From this point on, we'll have one every week in the Harbor Light. Great group of musicians. We have 4 locations. We've switched one after council's fabulous suggestion and an approval for closing state. We moved the Tom Smile musician to New York. So we'll be at the waterfront, New York, Johans, and Marianne Archer. And people are welcome to bring their chairs, and I'm anxious to see how tonight works out.
And we have and the street will be closed from State Street from Main to Bay. That'll be fun. Not just this week, but every week. Exciting.
We had moved the musicians away from New York because we didn't think we could social distance with people getting in and out of New York and parking. And so this makes it really a lovely setting downtown. So it'll be fun to see.
Victor, you might correct me if I'm wrong, but I think City Council is moving forward to allow alcohol in Marina Park. That's
A section of Marina Park, which is, we determined to be the southwest corner of the Marina Park, closer toward the pier. That's where the tables and the shade sails will be located. And that's the area they decided to put, to allow the alcohol to be consumed. And I think Chief Knight is working on the details, or like as far as.
Each restaurant's gonna have to comply with the Liquor Control Commission as far as allowing the sale of wine or beer or mixed drinks you need a special permit, right, Mike? And so that's up to each establishment. But we will allow, and I talked to Mr. Raymer under our guidance that we will allow alcohol to be consumed in the Marina Park.
Does this include, Kyle, people bringing in like 2 cases of beer? I mean, how's that gonna, you know what I mean?
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, okay.
Can we have Jody mute?
Jody, would you mute the background, please? Much better, thank you.
All right, and then as Kathy said, tonight is the blessing of the fleet, and they've worked hard to expand this event to be
Yes, I'm here.
to larger community involvement. There's going to be takeout specials throughout town, and they planned it intentionally to coincide with street music. So it should be a really nice evening. Kind of a much needed community celebration.
Ironically, street music had started a week late this year to not be on the blessing of the fleet, because last year we didn't have the greatest traffic because of the party. This year there's no party. So it's a wonderful marriage. It'll be a great evening.
Well, I think we have many more updates unless anybody else has.
Yeah, you're right. My next thought was in the next thing. Let's move right into our committee reports.
Okay. Sorry, I just have 2 COVID things.
Okay.
One is State Street, we are gonna close.
Jody, would you please mute?
State Street, we're gonna close it.
Chief,
Oh, Jody's trying to talk to you.
Yes, go ahead, Jody.
Jody, can you mute the background?
she's watching
Okay,
on.
now, do you have a question for Kyle? Now she's muted completely.
Is that, is the alcohol sales effective immediately tonight?
No. Usually in the park and stuff like that.
What's that?
In the park.
Okay. Now,
Well,
is there
sign
one
it.
for Kyle?
No, it's not like that.
Is the alcohol sales effective immediately?
Has it been approved by the state?
I believe it has, and I believe the governor signed it yesterday.
Oh, it's like yesterday.
The governor signed it yesterday, so, but we don't have our park cordoned off yet, I mean,
No.
so,
But
Not
council,
tonight?
you guys approved it at council, right?
yeah, so it's approved,
Okay.
but our shade sales aren't here yet. I mean, so, but obviously the area for consuming alcohol.
Okay,
As long as-
Jody, if you could quiet the YouTube behind you so we could not hear that background while you're talking. So we are not affected tonight?
I sent an email to our guys, or a memo, saying that you see people consuming alcohol in Marina Park based on what council decision was,
Okay.
that we would allow it.
Okay,
I said basically, that's my interpretation from what I read from the minutes from council.
and beginning today, restaurants can sell a to-go margarita?
Yeah. We
Okay.
passed that as well
Yep.
at the council meeting, so,
Okay,
As long as they comply with Liquor Control Commission.
Yep.
All right. So we're gonna block off State Street. We are not gonna tow any vehicles that were left there, because we don't have traffic control order, just to let you know. But the signs are out. I've got 4 signs on each side, and we're gonna put 2 on the entrances, and once 5:30 comes, we're gonna block it off.
okay.
So just so you guys are aware. And the other thing, Yvonne informed me yesterday that she's receiving calls from people downtown that are not happy with the curbside pickup signs because they're taking away parking spots. She told me 3 calls this last week.
From customers or businesses?
She just said calls. She didn't tell me who.
Okay.
Just to let you know, doesn't matter to me, but I just wanted to relay that message.
And Kyle, while you have the floor, you want to give us an update on the chalking?
Oh, yeah, sure. So the chalking is back instated, reinstated, so we are chalking. We've moved down 3rd Street as passed by the council, so we have the spots all the way down to Demmer. I have another concern that we'll talk about at the council meeting on Monday about going further.
Thank you.
All we've done, I guess, is kick the barrel down the street a little bit, so now people are going further this way, parking. But we are talking, I don't know whether success is good or bad, it's effective, let's put it that way.
Our block is fabulous.
All right,
Thank you, thank you. It's a big
Is that-
difference.
is that good one?
Yeah, it was the first day that I saw the chalk, I was like, I was a little stunned. Are we allowed to do this again? And we can, so it's nice to see.
Yep.
Make sure you chalk our block. I want to see a lot of chalk on those tires. Okay, thanks, Kyle. Now let's move into our downtown enhancement, when first is picnic tables.
So the picnic tables have been ordered and the shade sails have been ordered, but I don't think they're. in
Arrival
yet.
time would be
Yeah.
when?
Probably a couple weeks. That's just, yeah, to manufacture them. So yeah, probably a couple weeks. So we probably will have them up in a couple weeks.
So since we last met, the council voted to erect the shade sails. I know there had been some, different feedback from some of the different commissions, Harbor Commission, even us, and then Planning Commission. Everybody was kind of different, but they voted to move ahead, and they're putting them in a different location than the three that we had specified. So they're going closer over to the pier, where kind of more in the area of where the community band normally plays. What is happening there?
And how many did we end up with?
We ended up fundraising for 7.
Great.
Yeah, and then the city's buying 5, but they're not necessarily going right under the shade sail area.
Yeah. So Denny, Parks and Rec Director, will move and switch tables around as needed. So if he notices a need for them at Marina Park, he'll add more to those 7. But if not, he'll distribute them some elsewhere. And he's been coming between 6 and 8 at nights, like 2-3 days a week, just to monitor what kind of traffic we're seeing at the Marina Waterfront Park as well as Zorn Park.
What does he say?
He says, for the most part, 2 nights ago, everyone was at Ford Park and Zoll Street Beach and Zorn Beach, but there's only a couple people eating dinner at the Waterfront Park. And that might be for a variety of reasons, but
Heat being one of them.
heat being one of them, yeah.
Not to beat a dead horse, but on the umbrellas, is that a dead horse at this point?
I assume so. I think for this
Okay.
year, the council voted on that, and long term, I'm not sure, but for right now, I would assume it's a dead horse.
It's supposed to be just blistering hot the whole rest of the summer. I don't know if you've seen the news reports about it. I think it'd be super interesting. We don't have an umbrella on our table anymore. So I don't know if anybody has one, just to take it down and see, and I don't know, it just would be fun to try.
Denny did bring one in for council to
We did.
see, I believe, at the last council meeting, and he brought in one, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that red one.
But there wasn't a lot of
Can we
great.
stick it out there, or that needs council approval?
He probably returned it. No, we don't need it, but I think we pretty much got our direction for the summer. I mean, yeah,
Okay, officially a dead horse.
yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Our next exciting project.
Our next project is the tree grate update. So we had 2 council meetings ago, I guess is the way it went. The tree grate project had been kind of a request to go back and rebid it in a pared down form. Doing just the grates, saw cutting the grates, not doing the electric, and just doing the tree removal. After that point, I spoke with Benchmark, and Joe and I talked, and we found that there was another possible solution of looking at phasing it out and not having to rebid the whole project, and going to the bidders and then having it prorated by phase. And then we spoke with the mayor about rebringing that back up at council. And long story short, we brought it back up at council, and that was tabled and to the whole project. So now I guess we look at what we want, how we want to move forward on this.
We really, I don't think that we can without some direction and ideas from council.
So the council's statement really was to postpone the project.
Correct.
Part of that, I guess part of the problem with that is it wasn't postponed till when. There wasn't really, some different council members said, find a way to reduce the numbers or way to work things, but there really wasn't any, I guess, clear, come back in a month or come back in 3 months or come back next year. So
Our two council members, do you think there is a path forward where we could, it just seems like we had such good momentum, everybody loved the project. It was fact finding when we sent the bid out.
Jody, please mute that.
I think there is interest. I mean, if you were at the meeting or you watched the recording, there's interest in moving forward. I don't think it's a matter of, there was no lack of interest in getting it done. It was how we were going to get it done and what the specifics of how we were going to get it done, what was actually going to get done. If you remember, this started with let's put some grates down. And then in looking at it, it evolved, as I think it should have, to include ancillary changes to downtown that were more long-term than the original project. And it ballooned from a placeholder of 106,000 to 250,000. And I think that's where we kind of went off the rails. There is interest. I mean, the decision by council was to postpone it, not to deep six it. There was lack of clarity as to postpone it until when.
I hate to see it go the route of the boardwalk though, where it's just sort of perpetually in limbo is what that feels like,
I think it's a little different than the boardwalk. The boardwalk needs to be done, but it's not time critical. We have a good definition of what we're going to do in the boardwalk after some initial discussion. I don't think the discussion about the tree grades was really a bad discussion. I think that's the way that major infrastructure project discussions should go. But what we ended up with was very different than what we started with. So I've offered my time to the committee to spend some cycles on looking at the data, reorganizing it, reaching out individually. My hourly rates are very reasonable.
Cup of coffee
So-
here and there.
Coffee and donut.
Yeah, so, and to reformat it to come back to talk to people again. But maybe this is a longer term. Maybe the approach of phasing it is absolutely the way that the city should do it. But we need a more cogent plan. And by that, I mean that there was some discussion about, let's just do the first year, let's see what happens later. And I couldn't support that. We're gonna do one section of 3. We're gonna do all 3, or we're not gonna improve downtown, it's gonna look foolish. So let's come up with it based on all of the research that Marco did. I mean, she did a tremendous job starting with an idea, taking it to a project, working with Joe, getting a bid. We now actually have the data we need to understand to a great extent what the cost of the project is. So let's use that and let's move it forward. And then the DDA, the committee and the DDA can decide what they want to present to council again. But I'm not willing. I think Mike agrees. I know that John does. There's interest in making this happen. It's a tremendous opportunity to improve downtown. Well, let's move forward with it.
It seems like we have this window of opportunity with the budget cycle coming up. Did you say November, right?
Yep.
So do you think it's feasible that we could get something together, let's say in the next month or two, and would council be receptive to us coming back, with more information and here's what we recommend on phasing?
Well, we can't talk for council, but I can talk for myself and Mike can speak to his interest. I don't see why we can't do that. Again, the heavy lifting, Margaret took care of that. We now have the data. So let's go back and let's see what we really want to do. I'll work with Nick to understand more about finance. We have a capital improvement plan and maintenance, but all this needs to get tied together. And I don't think we just quite got there.
Yeah, I'm not sure the DDA has all the tools either. So yes, that'd be awesome if you could work with us and Nick and, see if we can find a way forward.
The desire
Be
to
okay
make
to
it
council.
happen is there. I speak not for council, but for
Right.
myself. I think it's a great opportunity. And how often do you agree that you're going to tear into the downtown infrastructure? If we don't do it now, the next time we cut into the sidewalk could be 50 years from now.
Thank you.
Mike, anything to add?
Nope.
Yeah, it would be good. I want to see it done in layers, and then I think we should move forward with that, and we should get a chunk of it done this year for sure. Or it's just gonna get stagnant and sit around, and I know how this works, we've been down this road, so. It's not that we want to shut it down, I just think we need to have a little more, structure in how it's gonna come together, in my mind. So we don't start something, get halfway through and it looks bad, and then next year we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna go through 2-3 years of it looking kind of halfway done and piecemeal together, so. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I would have a recommendation that at one of the council meetings that if this is to a council, because it wasn't a clear postponed till when they want to see, when council wants to see it back. So if that's what council members' intention is, I think at another future council meeting, that should be made clear in the public discussion, whether it's under old or new business, just to say, hey, this is what we want to do. This is what we'd like to see, just so we have the discussion. So the DDA, Margot and I, we know when to come back and how, with what to come back to the council with. Because I just don't want Margot and the DDA and even Nick and I to doing work and not knowing that if the entire council is going to be receptive to it. So I think a discussion at council would be helpful, for at least for staff.
Yeah, that was one of the many frustrations we left with that evening was, now what? Clearly, the positive was you said postpone, but the question mark was, now what do we do?
Yeah, we can,
We'll look it up on Monday.
bring it up on Monday.
Okay. We are more than willing to pitch in, as you know, to make this happen and do it in a way that makes the best sense for the downtown and for the budget. Some of the parts of that, we added in, such as the electrical. We need to get a look at the cost, the annual cost every year of putting those lights up and down for the holiday lighting and spread this out. I mean, there are some great opportunities for us to talk about these pieces and how they fit together, both with the infrastructure and the budget.
As far as the budget goes, we've talked about this now for several years. Of course, it's, at council's direction, but me personally cannot see doing it bits and pieces and then coming back later and trying to splice in wires and conduit. I personally would rather see phasing it in blocks, State to Gardner, whatever, but doing the whole thing, grades, bricks, electric, and be done with it for 50 to 100 years.
I like this man. I like it.
But trying to figure it into the budget is a different story. I mean, we go a little bit this year, a little bit next year, or just this year and next year and be done with it. That's something that council needs to talk about. We need to sit down and look at the budget, where we're at, and is it feasible?
You're talking about front to back, the whole project, one block at a time.
Or something, some sort of, phasing in like we had talked about before.
That's a good idea.
I had a question about that. The only part of the breakdown of the budget that worried me with that was that the dust and traffic control. Would it be this, if we broke it down by blocks, would that change? I think they're gonna hit, I want to look at that when we rebid this.
The staging, I mean, if they come in and say, we're gonna charge 30 grand for traffic control and blah, 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 do we get hit with that twice?
That's exactly right.
Right.
And
You will,
that's
which is
something-
why you need to look at it holistically.
Right,
There's also the disruption of the downtown. What time of the year do you do it?
right.
Are you willing to do that 2 or 3 times?
Good point.
Yeah.
All of that needs to be brought to the forefront.
Correct.
But that was something we didn't really get into the discussion because since it didn't actually go to discussion at the council meeting. I mean, one of the bidders really adjusted with traffic and mobilization, and they ended up becoming the low bidder of the project because the initial low bidder, when they went to prorate, didn't adjust traffic and mobilization, and which had been at a $30,000, actually closer to $40,000 cost, but the other bidder did. So they ended up flip-flopping spots as to who ended up being the lowest bidder on, going from the overall project to a phased project. So yeah, it hopefully that would factor in and change or.
Well, in a phased project, the contractor is gonna have an advantage.
Mhm.
I did like
Let's
Amy's
leverage that.
suggestion, though, that we could all take turns volunteering with a broom and a flag.
Kyle,
Yeah.
Yeah. On our hard hats.
a broom and a flag, all right.
I think we could do that.
No, you gotta have a vest. You gotta
Yeah.
have a dark vest.
Yeah, I think it'd be-
Jody would look in the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can put that out
That
there.
needs some great photo ops, the DDA work.
We do what we have to do.
Okay, so we have a path. John, you're gonna guide us down that.
I will attempt to do so.
Thank you, gentlemen, for assisting and for making sure that we get this done.
So we'll stay in touch on when we might, will this go then through the
Back to the
downtown
committee, yeah.
enhancement committee or full board or
We'll back to committee next.
committee next with John?
So,
And Mike.
yep, we'll wait Monday's council meeting and
Yeah.
we'll see any
Well,
direction.
Monday, we need to bring up the fact that I have volunteered time to do this, that I'm gonna be working with the committee to try to move it forward and get it back on the table.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, onward and upward.
Onward, yep. Promotions committee met, looked over the website. We talked about having this promoting a downtown shopping day. And then now after some feedback that I've gotten, I'm just not sure whether we want to do that. Then we talked about it being the 9th, now we've talked about it being the 16th. And feedback I'm getting is that everybody is so busy, they're not really even sure how much more they can take. So, which is a great thing.
Mhm.
It's, I mean, I know Josh told me he has sold out his entire boat inventory already. And it is, we just hit July. I know Nikki's absolutely swamped. So I guess, do we choose to go ahead trying to find a downtown day, or do we say our downtown's really busy right now?
Maybe we just switch gears and promote street music, just make Thursdays. As Josh already said, that's the one night of the week he's going to be open. Let's just keep pushing for that.
Do you think the restaurants need any additional support on things or where some great outdoor dining areas are, like with a flyer in the windows or anything like that? Where people can find
And I mean, it seems,
Jody
Could be a little promotion.
Jody emailed me and said she's just swamped right now. And,
Well, and I think, maybe shifting gears too and really focusing on going into fall, maybe when our lighter season is, and that was, when we did the promotions committee, it was really to drive business on and off season. We don't, and even now, summers pass before COVID and everything, nobody needed help finding things to do or finding Harbor Springs. Businesses are slammed and everybody's doing well. But I think fall and going into winter might be another, and that was, doing downtown days or First Fridays or whatever it's called. That was really kind of the point behind that, was to get business. And that was when we did Singo and trivia and things like that, was really to get business going in the off season. Because summertime, aside from the volunteers just being, I can only speak for myself, there's not much more time to do stuff. But I think off season is where we could focus, where people might have some struggles.
Just one more thought. If we had anything on the chamber website about what if we just said, eat at the parks and just let people know that liquor is going to be allowed and here's some great options for where you can go.
So, Bonnie, have we all met Bonnie? She's the masked lady in the corner.
I'm Bonnie Cole.
Nice to meet you, Bonnie.
Executive Director, so thank you.
Maybe when the tables are here, we should do a big, that would be good.
Absolutely, I would love to put that in, honestly, this is in hearing that people could do it this evening. I don't know if we want to jump the gun with that, but we're happy to promote all of that, in any way that we can help. Super important.
This might be corny, but would we have a ribbon cutting for the picnic tables?
and shade area.
Any kind of hike is fun.
Yeah, any
Yeah,
kind of
shade,
exercise.
shade and tables.
Shade
know,
and tables? I
yeah.
think that'd be super fun.
I know.
We should do that
Public
in the chamber.
Okay,
That's,
We can definitely talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
I would like to just echo what Nikki said. I think that is a better focus point, is looking down to a little slower point to promote downtown. I think anything that we try to do in the next few weeks is just it's gonna kind of fall on deaf ears because everybody's so busy. So he's got a very good point.
Been really thrilled to see so much takeout still. It's been fun.
Plus you don't know, I mean, downstate, they close indoor restaurants.
Yes.
Bars.
Yeah.
Bars, not restaurants.
Yeah.
Just bars.
Yeah, I mean, we just,
Where liquor is more than 70% of their
70%.
sales.
yeah, I mean, we're
But
not
it's a
quite
huge,
sure
it's
what's
a huge
happening.
blow.
Right.
I mean, it's something that I hope people continue. We put it in the newsletter today and put a little blip of, you know, this is happening and, you know, help us stay safe.
Yeah.
Right? Let's continue to
Well,
do what we're doing because our numbers have not increased.
there was some really great discussion through the Petoskey Chamber too, where they were talking, Charlevoix has some signage out talking about, you know, keeping things safe and helping us stay open and, you know, maybe Nikki had some really great ideas with that too. And, you know, just, I know Petoskey's doing some Pennsylvania Park and allowed some drinking in there too, but signage and just basically trying to remind our visitors that, you know, it's on them to help keep us open and help keep us going the right direction.
Do we have any signage planned for like rules, like at the drinking area, like underage drinking and no taking it out of that area? And wonder if that would be helpful. And then,
How are the perimeters going to be marked?
We're still working on that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we're happy. I do have some signage that's, you know, that we can provide. It's something laminated.
I've seen a couple ways. They've done it.
Sandwich
What they've done
board.
is they put a sign up that says, you know, drinking alcohol beverages in green space only. So it'll keep you, because I think the rules, and I'm waiting on the language right now, I just emailed William from the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. You can't get a drink out of a restaurant, like they can't go in and get a drink from Jody and then go walk down Main Street shopping. It doesn't work that way. It's closed it's closed until you get to wherever we allow it. So if we say that there's drinking at any green space in Harbor Springs, well then that's just the way it is, and they can go anywhere they want. So if you but the thing is, my concern is if we keep it into one park, you get 50 people down there and they're all drinking with their friends, which are another 100 people, and then their children, now we have a large gathered area.
That's a
So
real
I would
safe line,
consider
yeah.
actually doing this in maybe all the green spaces
Oh,
I
within the
think
Harbor
that's a
Springs
great
area, so
idea.
people do
Yeah.
just naturally spread
got
out.
such great green
So
spaces.
just a thought.
That's a great idea.
I like
Great
that.
idea. So we could communicate that in the chamber announcement whenever,
That's gonna be a city decision.
Yes.
So is that council or
I would,
director?
I would say we need to go to council. I mean, if we're gonna have
Monday.
drinking at all
Okay.
parks, because we're talking about then a greater area to monitor from Kiwanis
Well,
Park
yeah,
to,
And that's,
to-
are we able to
That
do
becomes an
that?
enforcement question.
yeah.
Police that.
So Kyle would have to look at that to see, you know, we would want to go to council and Kyle would want to make his pitch as to why or why not that's feasible for city staff.
So
And
maybe
Well,
only a
maybe-
couple parks even.
Yeah, so
you know,
it-
like-
it could be workable. It just depends on what, you know, Kyle has to look at the
Maybe
facts.
not,
Yeah.
because I know, but I have somebody who has a business right off of Pennsylvania Park that was in, and Petoskey has allowed this, but they haven't made a huge announcement of it because they didn't want to draw a massive crowd. So maybe if this is something that's allowed, kind of, you know, word of mouth and maybe not, you know, big front page, hey, this is what we're doing to draw a bunch of people in to do exactly what Mike said would more than likely end up happening.
The other option is to just monitor Marina Park for the first couple weeks.
I like
See
to
what
the
happens.
beach.
And that's a good idea too, maybe before you open everything up, maybe see if it gets out of control, and if it does, then it's gonna have to be stopped.
Because just speaking, if you open up to like, let's say Zorn on this north side of Bay Street's great. Zorn on the south side, do you want to mix all the kids and
I know.
alcohol?
It gets tricky.
And again, it would be, you know, it would be a difficult enforcement from the police officer's job if we have that many
You know, on
places.
the flip side, if we let Rodrigo sell, they can sell now take out margaritas. Do we tell them that they can only take them downtown? Do we want all that downtown when they could go to Kiwanis? So there's a lot of pieces to this.
Council?
Council?
Yeah, it'll have to go to
Well, I
council.
think council needs to weigh in on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And potential implications for the tax.
What I'm worried about, what I personally am worried about, I know Kyle is, but if you, the outer edge parks like Kiwanis, those are ones you absolutely have to drive to,
I
right?
know.
So
Yeah.
you're driving with alcohol to, we don't have to, but most people aren't going to walk to Kiwanis from, downtown. If you keep them centrally located downtown parks, at least people are walking to them. So that,
Downtown green space, in some subset, that's the way, I think.
Or the
But
water,
council
you could
needs
even
to
just
have
say
that
the waterfront
Well, they
parks.
can't get in the car with that drink anyway, it's still open top, so it's.
They cannot get in the car with it?
I don't think they can.
Because I would go,
That's one
get
of my
margaritas
questions.
from Rodrigo's and take it home.
Yeah,
Is that clear?
I don't think so, I'm waiting on the
Okay.
language right now. Because it's open liquor and then capped, so anytime you have that anyway inside of a vehicle, it's gotta be out of the reach of the guy who's driving.
So the guidance will
Or-
say walking only with this cocktail.
You could, and
Okay.
I
Put
would,
it in your trunk.
you
Okay.
can put it in your trunk,
Ah,
so there's that.
So when somebody it's a little easier with beer or wine, but if, say, somebody orders a margarita or something from you and wants to go to the park, it will be capped
Okay.
and they can walk down.
And the language will be very clear that they can't walk through downtown
drinking it.
drinking it, because I can,
Yeah. It's gonna be
It's
like Disney
gonna be-
World.
it's gonna happen.
I can see that issue. I can see that issue is, we all know what the law says, but your average person is not paying attention. Is
Some people do it now.
Yeah.
Seriously. Come on, and people are gonna say, what's in your Coca-Cola, right?
Yeah,
I mean, when it's something like that, no, it's just a soda. I just, oh boy.
I just don't think it's gonna be that big of an issue, and I think that I don't think we should force it to be.
Mike, what's in that cup?
We'll do the right things. What's in this cup? Bailey's.
smart man.
Been there, done that.
All right, we got good discussion coming up on Monday night council.
As far as signage goes, we've got the city sign up at Tourist Park as you come into town. Do we want to consider a sign up there to stay safe? Some kind of message as you come into town to remind people that we want them to be safe?
We could do that. I mean, that's,
The one thing I noticed in Memorial Day weekend, when people came up here, they were amazed that not everybody, a lot of people asked me what our numbers were that came from out of the area.
Yeah.
And when I said they were 21, they were amazed. And I think that forces our private people to be more aware of what they're doing around here. If people don't realize that we're at now 24, they come from large cities where there's thousands of people. So maybe, I don't know how we do it, but if we pass that message along that, hey, we're at 24 cases, and maybe,
Keep it that way.
yeah,
Let's keep it that way. That's sort of the
That's
message
the
I would
message.
love to send from the chamber,
Yeah.
to be very honest.
That's a
people
great
were
idea.
amazed that we were at that time at 21 cases, that they came from St. Louis or Texas or wherever, and they were amazed. And then I think it sort of maybe shamed them into doing the right thing.
My son was just here from New York and they said it was like culture shock because he took it, just like you said, it's been so good here that people want it to be good. But they came from a setting where every person could possibly kill them, and they said that, to a setting where people are more open. And we're very protective here. And I think people are doing a great job of making sure we stay that way.
We need to keep it that way.
We are, we're doing a great job. Okay. Lots happening.
Finance.
Busy July. Okay, let's move into finance.
You want to start with anything, Margo?
Well, we can talk about that first, yeah. So Victor and I met with the county administrator this week. And, did you put that sheet in there too?
Package.
Okay, yeah. Yep. So the one that has the highlighted, area. And I know most of you know, that the county, there has been an ongoing, I guess you'd say, battle with the county as to giving us our tip capture for the DDA. That they said they opted out, and we said they opted in, and Kathy can give you a very long history of it. The big thing now is what we're seeing, if you can see in the yellow section, highlighted section, is where we would be at if we were to get for 2020, and that
We
is.
don't have anything highlighted in yellow.
You have nothing.
That'd be underneath probably the next section there.
It says revenue projection at the top.
Oh,
Might not be high. Yeah, you got it. It's on your, on your,
right here.
Brian doesn't.
oh,
You can give them.
Here, I think you can have mine.
I got it.
everybody else got it?
Thank you. All right, now you go.
So when this started, from my understanding, in 2017, that revenue that we would be getting from the county was pretty small.
4,000 or 5,000.
Yeah, and they opted out and chose not to pay us, however you want to look at it, that money. But now we're, with the taxable values increasing, it's kind of a substantial, amount at 21,000. And now this is the allocated amount, which there had been a lot of discussion over these, and I think that's where the original discussion went wrong. Of what we were trying to capture was from some of these other funding, revenues. But I don't know, after our meeting, this is pretty much where we agreed that the discussion went, that they had agreed to the allocated, we had agreed to the allocated amount. And that's really the area we should be focusing on and looking at. So obviously at 21,000, it could be 30,000 next year, it could be more, it could stay the same. That gives us a lot more flexibility in things that we're able to do. And so we talked with Michael Reeves, and I think it went really well. He was receptive, but wanted to see what the DDA was doing, wanted, me to come back to him, to the, to maybe commissioners individually, and talk about some of the projects that we have planned, how we were going, what we were going to do with that kind of funding, and then through this process eventually end in August at the Board of Commissioners meeting, and we put it on the agenda to readdress it. And but hopefully with some history and feedback with individual commissioners. So I think we're moving forward.
Any conversation about their legal position on this?
Yes, and it was very brief, if you don't mind me telling you. It was we have an in-house attorney and that we pay regularly. So that we kind of left it at that. So that was that. So it was like we have an attorney that we pay no matter what to review this stuff. And if you guys want to go down that route of Attorney General Court, then we'll just pay our guy. It's gonna be we're trying to get it's gonna be more money on us to have if we go down the route of using our attorney and et cetera. Really what it comes down to, I think, is a breakdown of communication. There was some miscommunication there. For example, one thing they said was they assumed that the DDA was going to cut some of its other funding sources, like from either the assessment or whatever, how else we get money, to then capture this money, so that this money was going to replace what other money DDA was getting. And I said, no, that was never the case. They had some ideas of that we wanted to use the money to paint murals on garbage cans.
Oh, geez.
So there must have been some breakdown in understanding, communication, somewhere down the line, rumors got circulated that, I think, and so then obviously we passed an ordinance that says, that's the legal issue here is we passed an ordinance that says they have to give us this money regardless not, and we can go down that route of legal route, or we can go down the route of one last attempt to try to work this out collaboratively. And if this fails, if this collaborative approach fails, then obviously we have the other resources available to us. We can try to go down the route of we were going down previously. But I think if we can at least make the case to the commissioners to give them the sense of, they're part of this, then at least we might be able to get that allocated capture back. I don't think Michael Reeves said it was a guarantee, but he said he's willing to facilitate those conversations and help educate his commissioners. So
That's great.
They are our partners, and that's important. We don't really ask them for a buy-off on individual pieces of our plan. So the onus is on us at all times to keep communication open, to let them know. legally, I don't think they have the ground to do what they're doing. But we've let them, and therefore it's time for us to open the door and try to smooth us out. It's huge.
I think our case is very compelling with all the great projects we have going on right now too.
And that's part of the task, right? And that's part of what we talked with Michael Reeves was, Margot's wants to get an idea of the DDA, or here's our projects, upcoming projects, and go to the commissioners individually and to the meeting saying, this is what we're doing with this money. This is how it's not just for the downtown, it's for the visitors, it's for the people who live in the northern part of the county. Everyone's benefiting it from it somehow. And that's the case, to get them on board, I think that's the case we need to make.
Good.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Could you remind me who the commissioner is for this?
Charlie McGinnis.
Charlie?
Charlie McGinnis, yep.
Okay, great. Remember.
Okay. Great work, guys. Thank
On the
you.
other side.
Yeah.
Let's hope this goes.
Yeah.
Appreciate your help.
So hopefully we can, whether it's in a committee meeting or we want to make us not even a true committee, but we can get together and talk about some of the projects. And if there are a couple people that want to help work at formulating something that we can present and make a good case, that would be really helpful.
Awkward question, but was there any conversation about the back amounts owed?
We didn't go down that. I think we kind of talked about it internally as staff and figured that it might be easier to go with going forward
I agree with that.
because the back amounts were, money's money, relatively small change, but going forward but
Yeah, there's a couple things that I would personally not recommend going backwards.
Good.
Go forward, sell it. We have to sell it hard to the commissioners. Here's what we're gonna do, just like Victor just said, it's gonna benefit the surrounding area.
I think we could put a nice presentation together. And
Right, and I think the whole TIF capture thing it's a confusing topic. I mean, I know that the commissioners this last go around when this all started, half of them really did not understand what it is.
Which surprises me.
And then like you get rumors going, well, you're gonna use this money to do all these stupid things. Well, we need to sell it harder to them on what we are going to do and how this will help. And I really think that we can make it happen. But it's gotta be a good sales pitch.
Well, and we're doing great work. I think they'll see that it benefits everybody, and particularly now with this COVID environment, we're pivotal to the downtown, and that helps their tax base going forward. So if we make a stronger, we need to keep telling them that, if we make a stronger downtown, they give us this piece, but they get more overall because we've done a better job.
Right.
And we're all part of this. Great. So the budget is, we have an either or.
Yeah, and this kind of leads into the other two pieces of paper I've given you here. If you look at these sheets, one of them says December 31st of 19. Now, these are unaudited numbers because you couldn't get auditors in here, and they'll come hopefully the next month. But if you just quickly go to page where it has the revenues for 12/31/19 last year, we had budgeted $168,000 in revenues. We came up about $35,000 short, and the big one was, we didn't do Group Fest.
Okay.
But other than that, the revenues, we've got our $40-some thousand in our assessments. You'll see the TIF there was $27,000, which as you can see from that highlighted one, for 2020, even without 2020's capture of the county, we're still at $40,000. So we're making progress on the TIF money.
Good.
And then expenditures wise, $140,000 were spent. We budgeted $168. Again, Brewfest. So all in all, this has always been a tough topic, the budget.
Yes.
We're always running very, very tight ship, but we're not going backwards as badly as what we had thought.
Good.
However, going into 2020,
Change the page.
the very first page there, you'll see, and this is an issue with the DDA, is cash flow. If you look at the front page of the 2020 June 30th, we have negative cash in the DDA fund of $900 as of today. And the reason for that is your funding comes from two sources. And those sources are property taxes, which is the tip capture and the special assessment. The bills, we don't start collecting cash from the residents until today. You know, our tax bills went out on June 30th, so your cash is really, you guys, anything that happens between January and June is funded cash-wise by the city, and then your cash flow starts coming in. So that's why I've tried over the years to impress, to build up and not spend right down to the dollar at the end of every year,
Yeah,
so that you have
something to do.
something to pay
Yeah.
Margot the beginning of the year without relying on the city
Yeah.
to float it until the end of June. Quickly, second page of that one. The revenues are, actually, I've reported what we're going to receive for property taxes and assessments throughout the whole 2020 calendar year. So if things stay the course and nothing else happens right now, revenue stream wise, we've actually brought in more than what we had anticipated by a couple $1,000s, which is wonderful. And over on the next page with the expenditures, we budgeted 99.4 for the whole year of 2020. Right now we're at 37,000. 15,000 of that was Ice Fest, and the wages are the bulk of it at this point. So we're really looking good as far as the budget goes. We just need to keep pushing hard to try to tailor some of the projects that we do, or the DDA does, not myself, but so that we can build up a bit of a nest egg so that we are not always right to the wire.
Great.
But I think the way things are looking, especially with this conversation with the county,
That's gonna change things.
we're headed in the right direction finally. And I think that probably leads up to the wages, what we were talking about next, right? Margot?
Oh, well, first I wanted to say, just looking back at what we're capturing even without the county, I think you said it's the taxable value has increased, what, did you say 4 times in the last,
Last year.
in the past year and a half. So it's a big increase, not only just, from the county, but what we're capturing, from the other areas, which really helps. And hopefully my hearing is that Mossberg's projects are all leased out, that they're, and so I don't predict that those values are going to be dropping in the next couple of years.
Yeah, the TIF capture can be fickle. If we have a downturn in the economy and property taxes values drop drastically like they did in 2008, that TIF money could go from $60,000 to zero.
Well, we had nearly a 0 year, our
Yeah,
second
we
year.
had, I think 2017, we had negative capture.
We did.
So there's no money there. So that's another thing, we got to think, okay, let's build up a little fund balance, stash away some cash in case the economy, who knows how this will end up after COVID,
Mhm.
what will ever fall out of it. I'd rather be conservative than.
And Nick, if I may, we also have had internal conversations about, just hypothetically here, but alternative means for gaining revenue or earning revenue. And I think with Jeff too, we talked about all the different possibilities, whether it's increasing the assessment, adding a millage, and I'm not saying these are favorable things to do, but those are really our only other sources of revenue aside from the parking issue, which no one ever wants to go down that. So really, basically when Nick was saying this is fickle, the TIF capture is always going to be fickle, right? The special assessment is going to be there regardless. So you're going to always have that. That's a guaranteed income stream if that's there. But, raising that could cause an issue for some businesses. So it's just one of those, do you want a more potentially larger income stream that might be, vary from year to year? It could go from $100,000 to down to $2,000 depending on the property values. Or do you want a special assessment that's maybe middle of the road, but it's consistent? So, or you want, of course, as Nick will tell you, multiple streams of revenue. So,
Yeah, the DDA really has very limited sources of revenue available to it. It's either some sort of tax mechanism such as a TIF or a special levy, or a special assessment, parking obviously, but other than that, there really is not a whole lot of sources of revenue for a DDA.
It's a new person question, but how does our assessment fall relative to other communities in northern Michigan and elsewhere?
Very different. We have a flat amount per day for everybody, where most vary based on square footage.
Petoskey's does a special assessment based on square footage, and it is a monster to try to figure it out.
It would be.
And Jeff really encourages us not to go
I
that
agree with that.
direction because of legal issues and what we could get caught up in actually,
Trying to change it.
enforce it.
So
And,
there have been Jeff Grimm, because he's our, I don't know, he's our zoning administrator and assessor. He's worked in different communities where the square footage assessment was challenged, and then the tax court essentially said, yep, you don't have to pay any taxes because it's unfair. So you don't have to pay anything in the fund. So if people challenge that, you risk. It's been consistent over and over again at the tax tribunal.
It was a huge debate for us when we first discussed this assessment, doing the square footage, which would mean that someone like Jody pays a lot more than Nikki. But we decided those issues, as well as just trying to explain it, they were complicated. So we went with $1 a day for all the properties. It's not the businesses, it's the property tax holder who is paying this $1 a day. So not a lot of money per business, per property. And it's just the business properties, correct? Not the
For
residential?
instance, Wallstrom's or one of the bigger size-wise properties is paying the same amount as Nikki's store,
Yes.
which is much smaller.
Yeah.
But if we flip it around and do it based on something like a square footage, then all of a sudden Jody or Wallstrom's Irishes are spending $5,000-$10,000 and Nikki's still at $300.
Yeah, I know.
It's 6 of one, half dozen
It
of
is.
another, but.
I think we took the right approach for us.
FYI, Jody has to leave, so I'm just putting that out. She
Oh.
says she has to go.
Okay.
So anyway, interrupt. She just wanted to see that.
Okay, Nikki's going to. All
All
right.
And this is a dangerous question, but do we still think $1 a day is the right amount?
Well, we renewed it once at $1. I think as we get to the next round, which is 2 years away, we need to discuss that along, based on where we come out with TIF. When we made that conversation. Jody went to work.
The other thing that Jeff, and we all discussed, the four of us, was not raising the assessment, but we are able to, to do a millage, what is it?
A millage, yeah.
But what was our percentage?
Oh, it was one.
Yeah.
A
So.
millage, up to 1 mil.
Up to 1 mil, and so we could, he even recommended possibly, a common, if we wanted to raise something to go that route, to get a combination, so it wasn't all just hitting the larger properties, but that it was, a little bit more balanced, I think, a balanced pool of revenue.
And the freedom this gives a DDA is when projects need to be done, it doesn't need to go to council to ask for money, right? So that's really what it comes down to, right? So we're not transferring money from the general fund to do these projects.
Wouldn't some of them still, though, be capital projects that should be paid for by the city? Like the tree grade?
The whole
idea.
idea of the DDA is so the tree gates was part of the DDA plan, right? So these plans, the money from the downtown, from the downtown business owners and property owners goes in the downtown to improve it. So the general fund money then is not taken to do that. So while every change to downtown and the city has a benefit to the community, you could say, or to the greater area, the whole purpose of TIF, for example, is that money is going back in to benefit the downtown. So, there's a debate there. Council can always say, let's move money in from the general fund if it's needed, but you have less of a tension there if the DDA is self-funding, of saying, all right,
Absolutely.
why are we putting $100,000 from the general fund in to put tree grates here, but what about tree grates on the people's properties north of Lake Street? Why aren't we spending general fund money there? Why can't their streets look pretty?
And I think that was something even Michael was saying, when we were discussing at the county meeting, that if they could see that, we were gonna be able to do some portions of these projects without either having to come back to council, it was it made a good case for them too, that it wasn't always just, that we were there continually going back, to council for
And one of
general
the
money.
problems we talked with the county before was they thought that if the county put money in, the city was gonna pull money out. And the city wasn't putting money in. Our budget is what we get from TIF and assessments. Special projects, like the tree grades, we work with council on, and that would show the county that we have a partnership that we're working with the city on, in addition to what we're doing. But we're self-contained, and that's by law. We don't have a lot of maneuverability to find other sources of funding.
Yeah, the relationship with the DDA and the city's coffers, the city's revenue streams are very limited. We have the general fund, which is funded 100% by property taxes, citywide property taxes. And then the electric, water, sewer, they're funded by their rates and tax utility bills, blah, blah, blah. So when I actually took a call just last week from somebody up at Layton Park, which is up by IGA, about the tree grades. Why is the city going to spend money to put tree grades on Main Street when our neighborhood doesn't even have sidewalks?
Ah,
So the property taxes then, if we're spending tree grade money out of the general fund, and I don't think it'll be an issue because it does benefit the whole city. Why are my property taxes from Summit Street not fixing the sidewalks or putting sidewalks up here when they're just focusing on the downtown? So that it can be a political thing.
and similarly with the wayfinding, when people from outside the CBD said, my tax dollars put money or wayfinding signs on Main Street. No, they didn't. This was, the DDA is a special entity. We do it ourselves unless we partner with someone else, which we have.
Which we did. So the
Yes.
city transferred, $60,000-$70,000 over that 3-year period or whatever it was to do the signs outside of the DDA.
Yeah.
And the school, I don't ever remember what happened. I don't think they ever.
Didn't go forward with the school.
But yeah, so there is a constant working relationship between the two.
Yeah.
But the DDA really needs to stand on its own 2 feet when it comes to inside that boundary.
Yeah. Which I think we do a pretty good job of. Okay.
Which leads
He
to.
does too?
Yeah, which leads to, it has been, I guess this is a twofold issue. Obviously, when I was hired, there had been a talk of, Victor and I had said when we met, and I think it was agreed on, Kathy, that it was 20 hours a week that the city was planning and the DDA was planning. And obviously, I'm going over that. I'm trying to, really make sure that I'm not, but I think the workload and the duties that have been, so that is putting us, I guess, more hours than we had anticipated at this point. And so that is one part of it. The other part that's come up is am I working on city projects versus DDA projects? And I think they're all very collaborative, but it has come up, and Jim has brought it up, but he's not here. And really asked about whether the city should compensate some of my hours, and kind of left us in that. So that is the question, I guess, in both of it. Not really a question, but the situation on both.
So Victor, are there projects that she's working on that would it be outside the scope of the DDA and that Rachel wouldn't have worked on?
I don't think I've instructed Margot to do anything as far as, I think there is a need for collaboration, like in the shade sales, for example, right? It's in the DDA district. It was a council decision to put shade sales up, but Denny was working with Margot to all right, find a good location because it's in the DDA. So in that sense, yeah, there's that type of collaboration. I don't think I think really the big bulk of it has been the tree grade project. Of a city's, the council said, we're going to pay for this project up to $100,000. DDA, you do the work. Then it came to the point where DDA did the work, and then all of a sudden it was, postponed, right? So is a DDA, the idea was, is a DDA paying their staff to do a project that's gonna be done in the water? Obviously, we talked to council here, a couple of the members here. No, their idea is, no, it's not done in the water, it's just postponed, but that's where the thing's like, all right, how much work are we gonna invest? Could we be using Margot and staff to be doing something else? So as far as actually like I think it's trying to build a collaboration between all the different departments and staff. So anything that happens in the downtown district, that Margot's aware of it. So there's more communication, I think, than there was with Rachel. That's partly because Margot's, we have her in the office and here working, and, she's in the office almost every day, which even if it's just a couple hours. So we have that, there's more constant communication. The real big question, I think was the tree grates was, all right, if the project was not gonna happen this year or next year, I was like, then I felt like, all right, well, then maybe the city should, invest in some of that money. But if the project is gonna happen, then I feel like her staff time was used, even maybe it was more than anticipated. It's gonna go to a good result in that. But that is other question though, the DDA direct, with all the projects, and I think, and I won't speak for Margot or DDA, but I think with all the projects and ideas that the DDA wants going forward, a part-time staff is really hard to make that happen with. I mean, it's just really hard with 20 hours. And I know her 20 hours don't have to be 20 hours this week, and it can be 10 hours this week. But basically what she's saying is November's gonna come around and she's not gonna have hours to use if this pace. So my perspective is, all right, we have the tree grate project. DDA maybe right now, if they're not gonna put more money into or add more hours to Margot, DDA needs to limit what Margot's working on, so that way she can just focus. But that's.
So do we have some wiggle room where we can move some more money? Numbers guy?
I heard a raise of special assessment. Mike doesn't like that.
Oh, we didn't do this because we wanted just 20 hours. We two parts of that.
Yeah.
We didn't know how many hours were involved, which we never got a breakdown from our break.
Right.
And number two, as we just discussed, our funding is quite limited. So it was what we had, not what we felt we should give her.
And it's so hard to tell about having some extra wiggle room, to shuffle some money around, because we're just now getting into the season where your guys' projects are going to start coming into play. Most of your dollars are spent from now until October 1st. But let me put it this way, that if Margot goes over her hours and you guys go over budget, I cannot let the DDA go to the end of the year with a negative cash balance. The state would come in and say you're done. So that automatically triggers a transfer from the general fund to make the DDA whole at 12/31.
Okay.
I don't know that a discussion right now about increasing Margot's hours is something that we should consider until we have a little better idea of what the county's gonna do.
Okay.
That's a good point.
That's a good point.
I think the whole idea of a DDA director, from the city standpoint, was to try to get this to be a full-time position, where you can work at stuff all year. But the revenue stream has just not been there up to this point. Hopefully we can get to that point where we don't have to have this conversation.
But what do we have coming up that's gonna take a whole lot of time though? Like if
Right.
tree grades
You guys-
goes forward,
Right.
a lot of the work's been done on a lot of big projects, right? So maybe it might start falling off a little.
Well, we are gonna, I mean,
That's
we're
probably
gonna be going,
realistic.
I don't think that's super realistic, but, also, if we're gonna go forward with the county, I mean, I need,
There's time.
I need to be there, and then
Yeah.
I need to put into that, and, that's,
I just don't want to see
Yeah.
Margot eating hours,
Right,
doing
exactly.
stuff on her own time, just
Nobody
to
wants that.
try
No.
to stay in her budget. That's not,
No.
Well, I
if
think
you
it,
work, you should get paid.
yeah, and I think it merits having a conversation about, and planning, what does the rest of the year look like, and being strategic about that, and saying, what is out there? What would be obvious, not just moving money for moving money's sake, but making sure it's like, okay, this is what it looks like, this is what the hours, and planning strategically against her current time and budget versus what's out there for the next 6 months. I'm not sure we can have that conversation right now.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And also, not to speak for Margot, but she came in this job knowing that it was 20 hours a week. And so maybe she has other things in her life
She wants
that
to do.
maybe
Yeah.
she can't go to 30 hours a week anyway, you know what I'm saying? So there's
Yeah.
those conversations that need to be had as well, so.
And we are the only DDA up north that does not have a full-time person.
Yeah.
But we don't have the funds, the other ones do, because they have parking revenue. So we've got some unusual. What's your recommendation for yourself?
I think we need to talk about it and strategize this as Amy's saying. You know, I've seen, like during Ice Fest, yeah, I was pretty much working, you know, full-time. Then I cut back. Then there's things that have brought me back, you know, to higher, but overall, I just think it's maybe just a little underestimated from what we had anticipated.
Not a surprise.
Yeah, we had, like Kathy said, we didn't have the breakdown of
Yeah.
Harbor Inc., from Harbor Inc., exactly what hours.
Yeah.
So,
Well, just because it's budgeted, this is the first year for having somebody on the payroll per se,
Yeah.
not contracted. So now we're learning. Okay, next year, we know that
Yes, we do.
that Margot is willing to go up to whatever hours. Okay, let's go that way and budget for it. We might have to trim back on other projects where we've got 15,000 budgeted, which, whatever that is, I don't know. We'll trim back on some of that stuff and give her more hours, but we don't know that until we get to the end of the year and say, all right, we had said X amount of hours, and here's where we're at. We need to either, cut something out elsewhere or bring her hours off by it.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
a spending plan that can be amended.
Yeah, these are the projects, this is the energy it's gonna take to do it. Moving forward.
And we're gonna be back into about December or November, starting on Ice Fest again. Assuming we want to go forward and ask businesses for support.
and there are also a lot of unknowns, right? So we knew the tree grade project's gonna take a while, but we don't know it's gonna take this path. We knew
Exactly right.
we wanted to deal this issue with the county administrator, but we didn't know it's gonna go this path now coming before
Yeah.
commissioners. And so like, there's things that pop up that are necessary that we just can't account for anyway in planning. So, but we need a plan. It's just, you always have to have that buffer room
You do?
in your planning for unexpected.
Well, let's move forward with talking about the remainder of the year as we get past summer projects. But let's keep the county conversation has to be upfront because that's affects us talking.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
let's go into our conversation on projects and timing in August.
Yeah.
Committee will kind of spearhead that then.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. And as I say, I'm not trying to, be, as I say, extravagant with my hour, the lane of that either.
I
So
do want to see you at the pool more. I haven't seen you there lately, so I'm assuming you're here.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
We'll move on. Just briefly, my update is we've talked about this kiosk that's going to the Main Street corner. And when I talked to Simplicity, they say that the installation's been paid for, but it really hasn't because they want to charge us $1,000. I talked to Lucas and he said, let's find a way just to get the sign up here and he'll put it in. So that's,
Are we getting the chamber one out, Bonnie, the kiosk?
Yeah.
Soon?
Sure, I can do it today.
I mean, it's old. It needs to come out.
And then we talked about, I think we'll hold off updating the directories, the kiosk directories until we get a little bit more stability with the.
We did not update the kiosk directories this year because of COVID-19 and we knew there'd be so much movement. I've only had one person comment that they're out of, they're old. And when I said why, I mean, even now, had we put one up last week, we've got to change with Collins and Sprout. This is just gonna be so much movement. We need to let this get shaped down. Hopefully by next year, we're back to it.
Somebody's in Spice Harbor now.
I saw that. Who is it? Who's in
I
there?
haven't met them
There's
yet.
stuff in.
It's clothing, they're starting to.
Trevor Monday, we spoke. I met her yesterday, her name's Amy.
Okay.
Her and her husband. Their fixtures are being delivered tomorrow and they're gonna be open Saturday.
Wow.
And Josh, yeah, Molly Baker's in the Journey North,
Yeah.
Trevor
doing-
Monday, we spoke. it's.
Was it, I can't remember the name.
Yeah,
of
it's
it.
like adventure camp.
Adventure or
It's
something,
great
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So they're in that space.
So we will update that next year.
Okay, the website's moving ahead. Lucy's doing a great job, and we thank Anna and Bill for their, their generosity in getting that going and keeping her working, working and building that,
Thank you.
that, on the website. So Lucy and I have been in touch, and we just hopefully we're gonna be there soon. Oh,
Yeah, you want, if you, there we go.
So I can.
There you go. You're up.
Bring it to,
Just about all the changes that we had discussed have been incorporated. There needs to be a little bit more work on the directory, a mission statement, what else?
and that's.
Just about us, FAQ kind of stuff.
If we want to, I think it would be, I would recommend that we get together, whoever wants to kind of flesh out some of the new language and verbiage for
Okay.
mission statements and things that we want to see that, because at this point, she basically took what was on the old website, and I'm just not sure that that's the direction. we
Needs a
want.
little refresh.
Yeah.
Good. I like it. Great work.
So that is that, which leads to other business. Kate Monti asked me if, because I have been working basically either from my home or am downtown with the businesses or I'm here, she asked if she could take my designated desk for the month of July because they're so busy. I told her I needed to kind of discuss this was because it's a prepaid desk and
This is at the loft.
at the loft.
Take it with,
And use it for the people that she's, because they're getting so full down there.
we get reimbursed for the,
Well, and that's what I need to,
I think that if they need it, we should let them have it, but we should be reimbursed for the last version.
Or just credited to however we.
Yeah, if it goes forward, yeah, whatever works best for them, but as long as it's just not a gift.
FYI, they're pretty much sold out with full-time people there. So they shut that part down and they don't even know how much room they're gonna have for drop-ins.
Good.
and honestly, from my standpoint, I would rather, I'm either in the businesses or I'm working from home or I'm here. I would prefer not to work in a communal space, just, as little as possible, I guess.
Well, that's another question is would we just turn the desk back over and get a refund for the rest of the year?
Do we even need it?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm given what's changed since we did this in January. Can we do that?
I can definitely ask her and see what they'd be willing to do.
I would be one to vouch that it works well with having Margot in the office
Yeah.
for communication wise, in the city hall. So
Yeah, I think what we wanted was a presence in downtown, and that's happening.
yes, yeah.
You don't have to be looking down on Main Street to make that happen.
But we have some money back in the budget.
Well, at least going for next year, especially, we'd know if the loft is not
Maybe
calculated.
the
in the budget.
refund's around $900 and change. Balance it out.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
It's already gonna be your balance.
There's a reason why you're on council.
And then my last thing is our August meeting. I know Kathy and I spoke. Kathy's going to be gone on our
Date.
normal date. And for me, I would prefer to push it back to the following week. So if everyone is okay with
We
that.
need to have a bylaws conversation, which we didn't put on the agenda today
Yeah, that
because
was
we had
my
other heaviness. So Amy and I and Margot have gone through the bylaws and made some suggestions, so we need to have a pretty in-depth conversation. at the
And I will
August
send
meeting.
those bylaws out to everyone on the board.
And
Yeah.
if we could possibly move it to the following week, which may lighten the business pressure too. Is that
I would put a notice out to all DDA because we're down to below a quorum now, because only 4 of us, because Jody left and
Oh,
Nikki
shoot.
left. So I would put it out to an email to the entire DDA board just to make sure.
okay? All right.
Yeah.
You're right, we will.
What was the date, August?
13th?
Yes.
Is that gonna be at 7 o'clock or
8. No, it's gonna be at 8 o'clock. It might even be at 9 o'clock.
Does 6 work better for you, Kyle?
I prefer 6, actually.
He's working
Oh.
midnights. He's working midnights, so he can do 6.
Okay.
I have other business.
Okay.
My only other business is Katie's been here, our DDA student high school rep.
Is your
So-
last meeting?
Well, she can come through August if she'd like to, but I'm gonna get in touch with Michael. I don't know what the school year is gonna be like
Oh, yes.
for next year. So I'm still gonna put it out to Michael Behrman and say, we're gonna open up positions again for next year for DDA, Planning Commission, and Harbor Commission. Katie, you're gonna be a senior, right?
No, she's leaving.
Shoot, that was last year. All right, well, this is Katie's last. So then we're gonna be potentially have a new DDA student rep if they allow that. So I'm just letting you guys know that I'm putting that out there to receive applications.
Can I make a suggestion for the application?
Yes, please.
Last year, we needed a principal's signature and it was due the first week of school. So I don't know if you either want the principal's signature or just give kids a few more weeks into school, because I know that Mr. Behrman talked about how he was worried because he wasn't getting any applications, but that was because we couldn't get a principal's signature until we were in school.
Okay, that makes great sense.
Yep, that does make sense.
And also, it's not really advertised very well or like brought up at school a lot, so I don't know if you wanna like put a flyer up at school or even do some type of like assembly just so that people know what it's all about, so that they can apply, because I think when you just send it out through email, there's not a lot of response.
It's a great idea too, so maybe we do something in the school in September and start this in October. It's a
Yeah,
great
you can even
suggestion.
ask like maybe Matt and Neil to come back, and maybe we can talk about our experience.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
To the high school.
I think that's something that I didn't put on the last year's application, but was maybe to have some kind of end of the year wrap up for the student, some presentation or some kind of, written, feedback about, what they learned, what the process, what could be better. This is obviously our first year at it. So
Yeah.
we're just glad that we had people here and at least you could experience a little bit of local government, even though it was a weird year with but that's great feedback. So I'll talk with Michael Berman about that. Thanks, Katie.
Congratulations.
And sorry for calling you a senior when you're
Now,
not.
when do you have that to school?
August 25th.
Soon. Obviously, you can tell by looking at her mask where she's
We
going.
know where
She's
And if you know any kids that would be interested, to put a button there. I don't know.
Thank you so much for being here,
Yeah, thanks for having me.
for your great suggestions. Okay, anything else? I think we're it. We've made it through this early meeting, and any other public comment? Onward and upward. Thank you all. Happy July. Hope to see you all on the streets tonight for street music.
Oh, I just thought, Mark, I've seen posts about the boat, the ferry, going
Yeah.
back and forth. Is that all going
That's,
well?
It is.
it's all going.
It is. Andy and I were at the ribbon cutting on Saturday.
Yeah.
And Bonnie, and, yeah.
Maybe people were concerned about parking, that you've seen any,
Well-
about where people are parking, and taking the boat.
Chief Knight,
For 250 bucks.
Kyle, sorry, have you noticed any increase in parking violations due to the ferry? I know Ford Park's a mess. It's been a mess. But I don't know if it's a ferry related necessarily.
It's hard to determine on Ford Park if it's ferry related, IBS related, Mossberg related.
Kayakers.
Or, and I'll tell you, this is.
How about COVID related?
This is my fourth summer and I haven't seen this many
Trucks.
pickups with trailers on it. I mean, yesterday it was packed with pickups and trailers. And when I came here in 17, it wasn't that way. So there's a lot more individuals using boats down there. So I don't necessarily know if it's ferry related. I know there are some. I mean, we went kayaking yesterday and about 25 people got off the ferry.
Oh,
Wow.
So it was,
that's the max, isn't it? 25?
30
Yeah.
is the next.
Great.
As high as 30.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. All
See?
right. Thanks, everybody. Victor, what happened with the conversation